Welcome to the local Lowdown and find out what's happening in Lavaca County, Texas. Now here are your hosts, Murray and Michelle.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is Thursday, February 15th, and we're going to be going through the Lavaca County news and talking about Wednesday, February 14th and Thursday, February 15th editions on the local Lowdown. Now I'm flying somewhat solo, but not completely because I have Coach Appelt here with me. And if you don't know who Coach Appelt is, then it's Jimmy Appelt, who is our senior reporter here at the Hallettsville Tribune-Herald. How are you today, Jimmy?
Well, I'm doing fine. I feel kind of nervous about having to fill in for the shoes of Murray Montgomery. He does such a good job, and I feel like I don't know if I can match up with him.
They are big shoes to fill. You're going to have to be grumpy. Can you be grumpy? No, I'm kidding.
I don't think so.
We're just going to do a little talk today. We're going to have a little fun, and we do hope that Murray feels better. He said on Facebook that he was up at 3 a.m. I was happily sleeping at 3 a.m. But we do have a little bit of the under the weathers going on here at the paper, so that's why my voice sounds weird. Jimmy has his cough drops and water at hand. So, bear with us a little bit. There's a lot in the air right now. But we're going to start by talking about the big event that happened this weekend, and that was the Super Bowl. And I'm sure Jimmy watched the Super Bowl, right?
Oh, yeah. I watched it from start to finish. It was a real good ball game, one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was close pretty much the whole time. It was, for most of us, we did enjoy the halftime show. Chuck did say you're not an athlete, or you're a real athlete, right, if you could dance on roller skates.
Well, Usher did a great job, but I'm not much of a halftime watcher. I do other things at that time, but he was a lot better than some of the shows they've had in the past.
Imagine that. That is when my husband takes the time to eat whatever we're having for Super Bowl food, is during halftime, because, he's more about the game as well. So the game was a good one. The underdog did win, and I'm usually for the underdog. There was some controversies that went on, some talk about the Travis Kelce confrontation with his head coach, Andy Reid. What did you think about it, Jimmy?
Well, when I first initially saw it, I thought, my goodness, the guy's lost his mind or something. He was too much into it. He shouldn't have done that to the head coach, and I would imagine Coach Reid wouldn't want to bench him, but most coaches probably would have turned around and said, you sit on the bench till I pull you back in. But Kelce's such an important factor for the Chiefs, and I thought it was out of hand. He shouldn't have done that. That's what my feeling was for it.
Yeah, and I think that he's come out now himself and said, hey, I really shouldn't have done that, and I appreciate that. And that's just more because I think of kids watching, and my husband being a coach himself, and I would be floored and really disgusted if someone did that to my husband, a player. It's just like you can't go up to your boss at work and scream in their face. But do we all make mistakes? We do. And in the heat of the moment, and especially, you have to think of the stage that Travis Kelce and the Kansas City Chiefs were on, and the emotions and all of that. I think he just made a mistake. He handled it the wrong way. And unfortunately, just like ours gets put in print, sometimes his got put on national TV.
Well, being a former coach, I would not have liked it either. I probably would have benched the kid or the player, and like I said, not let him come back in the game till I decided I wanted to let him come back in. I do feel that Coach Reid handled it real well. Didn't go back at him in any kind of way. He just kind of blew it off, and I think in the long run it paid off.
I also think it was good he didn't fall down, because how embarrassing would that have been for him? But good game. No matter what, please do not take it away that I feel that Travis Kelce is an amazing athlete, and was definitely part of the reason the Kansas City Chiefs won, as well as Patrick Mahomes, which is a good old Texas boy. So we're glad that he was on that stage. Now, I will say I did see some of the differences between, is it Purdy? Is that the quarterback's name? Purdy and Mahomes. And one big difference is their salary. I think one makes probably triple to 3 times the amount of the other. The other is one rents with one of his teammates, and the other owns $8 million worth of property.
Well, you know a lot of things that I don't know about that. I'll tell you what, Mahomes has won 3 Super Bowls, so he basically deserves a lot of it.
He does.
And as far as Purdy is concerned, if he continues to play like he does, he's going to be up in that category of making money too eventually.
And just congrats to him for the stage he was already on and how well he handled that. Now, the other question is, did the 49ers know the overtime rules?
That's a good question. I don't know. I did not know this overtime rule. That was surprising the way that was, and what surprised me at the end of the game, or when the game ended with 3 seconds to go in that first overtime, the announcer said that they do not have to score if the clock runs out because they still have the football, and it would pass over into another quarter. So until the Chiefs gave up the ball, they would still continue to play. So no, I didn't even know that. So it wouldn't surprise me if the 49ers really didn't know that either.
Yeah, I talked to my husband about it a little bit because I was just like, because I did hear the rules explained when the second toss happened a little bit. I mean, that doesn't mean that was just the captains out there, so does not mean the whole rest of the team knew it. But I don't know that it really affected the outcome of the game so much. I mean, the biggest thing is you want to score, right? And Gilbert said that no matter what, the defense was on the field a lot for the 49ers, so probably putting the offense on the field regardless was the best move. So.
It's a possibility they didn't understand the overtime rule because over the season they play under a different set of rules. And so it could have been a little confusing to everybody, but they did. It is what it was. So.
Yeah. And in the end, the Kansas City Chiefs are your Super Bowl champs this year, and next year we probably will be like, who are the Super Bowl champs? Unless they're there again, because then they'll be going for that three-peat, which, has that ever been done, or it's just rarely been?
No, it has never been done in the NFL.
So, good luck to them. I guess I'm rooting for them to do something that's never been done before. And I do also, I don't know very much about what happened yesterday at the parade, but I do know that there was an unfortunate shooting at the celebratory parade at the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl, which I don't know, was that in Kansas City? I don't even know where it took place.
From what I understand, it happened toward the end of the parade, and there was one individual that was killed, and then several others that were injured or suffered gunshot wounds, and some of them were children.
So unfortunately, our condolences and best wishes for those that are injured for a speedy recovery, and we are sad that happened at such a great event. So now we're going to move on to more sports, because that's what you do when you talk to a coach, right? You talk sports. So this was in most of last week's papers, the talk of realignment in our area. And no matter what, football's a big thing. We have some powerhouse teams in Lavaca County that can be very much affected by where they are in a district. So, Jimmy, you want to talk a little bit more about realignment?
Well, basically, realignment happens every 2 years by the UIL, and it's because it's based on student enrollment. They have to turn in their enrollment shortly before the time it comes out, and I think in the previous year they have to turn in their enrollment. And then they classify them in different districts. Sometimes, and regions as well. And sometimes the schools stay in the same districts, and sometimes they move into other districts. And it's based upon, again, as I said, enrollment. And then in football, they do something different from all the other sports. They classify them in a Division I or Division II. It's based there, again, on the size of the schools. Although in the baseball or basketball or volleyball or those sports, it's all falls back that everybody falls into, say, 3A or 2A or whatever it may be. Hallettsville basically didn't have any change in their district. They kept the same teams, and they stayed in their Region 3 for football. But then in baseball or basketball, those other sports, they went back, they stayed in the same district they're in currently as well. But now they're playing in Region 4 in those sports. So it's kind of weird the way they do that. Shiner, on the other hand, they got a little fortunate in the football side of it. They've been playing in the tough Division I, 2A level. And they fell, from what I understand, one half of a student short of meeting that or staying in that 2A Division I. and as a result, they dropped into Division II. So they're going to be considered one of the largest schools in Class 2A Division II this year. So it should help them, because you basically play schools that are a little bit smaller than you, and of course, the bigger the school, the more athletes you can choose from, and it makes a big difference as well. Yoakum, they stayed in the same district with Hallettsville, and so they'll be battling each other out along the way as well. On the private schools, they do a little different type of realignment. They're under the TAPS League, and Hallettsville, Sacred Heart, and Shiner St. Paul both stayed in the same district. They're in a district together, and the odd thing is, in baseball, they're going to be in a 10-team district, and that plays a big part in scheduling. You don't have to worry about finding as many games. And I want to back up. Hallettsville being in their district is only a 5-team district, so one of the smaller districts in the state as far as number of schools in that district. And as a result, that means Coach Montgomery is going to have to find, or has to look for, 5 other non-district games. If you fall in a district with, say, 6 teams, that means you have 7 teams. You have 6 district games. They only have to find 4 non-district games. So it makes a big difference in scheduling.
And you're also, when you're a good team like Hallettsville and Yoko, and the ones you find in Lavaca County, you don't find people that just readily want to play you all the time.
That is true. It's surprising. Hallettsville's had some very good football teams in the past, and as a result, a lot of schools around the area, for some reason, shy away from it. But it doesn't mean they're playing the same athletes that they played back, say, 4 or 5 years ago.
True. So you just never know. But they have their work cut out for them for finding some games. But they do know what their district is going to look like coming up, which for Shiner it will be a little bit of a surprise. And the travel is quite different for Shiner. Yes, they were playing Flatonia, which was like 20 minutes, and I don't think there's anything close now. So, it all falls, and in 2 years we'll be maybe shuffling it up all over again. So that's just kind of how it is. Kind of makes it fun, kind of makes it scary. But we'll see how it ends up at the end of next year. I know that softball is fixing to get underway, and baseball, I think the season opener for baseball is this weekend. Is that what Chuck said?
I think they start Tuesday or next week, Monday or Tuesday, and girls softball started this week. They're all into that part of play.
Yes, and for most of them, I know Shiner's in a very tough district because they're in the district with Schulenburg, which is who my husband coaches, and I always tell him, well, once you get out of district and you, if you make the playoffs, you actually probably will see some easier teams. So there you go.
That is a case like that. In my experiences, we were in districts when I was coaching that the district was one of the stronger ones in the whole state, and so we'd get in the playoffs and we met schools that were we felt like weren't as strong as some of the ones in our district.
Which, that's crazy, right? But at least you're playing some of the best up front. Why not? Competition doesn't hurt anyone. So we got a little sports underway. We're going to switch to a little bit, or we're going to stay with sports just a little bit more and switch to basketball, which is the current sport kind of ending out or rounding out their year. But we're all still playing as far as we know. And we're not sure about Moulton boys, correct? We think they're...
Or St. Paul.
Or St. Paul
basketball
boys.
Teams. We're not certain on them either. But Hallettsville, both their boys and girls have made the playoffs. In fact, the Lady Brahmans already won their by-district game, beating Nixon Smiley on Tuesday night. And then they're going to play, I believe, tonight, or is it tomorrow night? They're going to play Hondo. And then the boys wound up getting 4th place in their district, and so they're going to wind up playing next week, Monday or Tuesday. I don't think the schedule's been set yet, but they're getting Cole High School out of San Antonio, which is usually a very strong basketball program. So it's a pretty tough draw right off the bat for the Brahmas. The Yoakum Bulldogs basketball team made the playoffs as well. I'm not certain who they're going to meet in by district, but they will be playing probably Monday or Tuesday as well. Sacred Hearts, girls and boys, both are in the playoffs, and they will both host their first round games. I'm not certain when those games are going to be played as well.
We need Chuck. Where's
Yeah.
Chuck? But I do know, I could give you a little insight into Shiner. I know the Shiner girls did win. I can't remember who they played, but I know that they won their first round and are preparing for their second round. And the boys either played or are fixing to play Thorndale, which I know is a pretty good school, or usually. And they're in their first round still.
And the Bob Kittens over in Moulton won their by-district game, and they're playing tonight. That's the game.
Against Dehanis, right?
Yeah, I believe it's Dehanis tonight. I'm not certain where they're playing. We can look in the paper right quick if it's there.
A place yet to be announced.
Okay, so they're playing Dehanis, but I believe it's tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
So best of luck to those ladies in Moulton. So a lot of basketball going on. We talked about a lot of sickness. So Henry's out sick, Murray's out sick. We're still pushing through and surviving. We think Chuck Groff brought it in last Friday. So thanks for the gift that keeps on giving there. And we'll talk about a little bit about Hallettsville, the paper this week. Big news. Henry made the front page, but not Henry himself. His article about Hofer's Drive-In. Hofer's has been around for 70 years. So, and 50 of those Henry has been employed by them. So, what a great history they have. Read a little bit about what's going on there. Of course, we're in the big election year and election season. So tomorrow ends the day you can file, correct? Exactly.
For entities, tomorrow's the day you can file, and the article in the paper shows you who has already filed. Some of the entities, I know Hallettsville has 3 seats open, and all 3 former or incumbent board members have filed. Well, actually, 2 of them. There's a new one filing for place 3, and that's Cherise Sidney. And the current place 3 board member is Morna Klimacek, and she's chosen not to run, or at least that's up to this point she's chosen not to run. In city, they have, I think, 3 positions as well, and all 3 are filed for running again, and nobody so far is contesting them. And then in the hospital board, they too have 4 positions up, but only the incumbents have filed. So far it doesn't look like there's going to be any real candidate races in any of them. I think though both the school and the city are going to have some type of bond elections. All this takes place in May, that particular election. So don't get it confused with the primary election that's coming up, or early voting has started already.
And that, it starts Tuesday, right?
Yes, it starts next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. So we do have the ballots in all of our newspapers this week, or sample ballots. The way we presented them to you is you have the Republican ballot and the Democrat ballot, or the Democratic ballot. The Democratic ballot is 1 page. There's no extra as far as county seats or anything like that. So you only have that 1 page you're looking at. The Republican ballot, depending what precinct you're in, does have different elections going on. So your precinct-specific entities or entries are going to be on the side of that Republican. So you're going to look, basically, if you're in precinct 4, you're looking at the 400s 1, the 100s, precinct 2, 200s, and precinct 3, 300s. So, know that most of these probably are uncontested. I think the only one contested right now is precinct 1 with county commissioner. You have Edward Puska and Travis Henderson.
Well, we have 2 other positions too. The county attorney has Correct. 2 positions, or 2 candidates, the incumbent Kyle Denny and the challenger James Reeves.
And then the sheriff's race, we have 3.
And we have a three-person race in the sheriff's incumbent, Micah Harmon and Stephen Greenwell and Anthony Vaccaro. I want to point out all the elections, all the early voting takes place at the county annex here in Hallettsville. It's located on Texana Street. I think it's 412 Texana Street. So anybody living in Shiner or Moulton or Yoakum, Lavaca County area has to come here if they want to vote early. And that goes through, what is it, March 1st? Or I think I have it here. March 1st.
March 1st, 7 a.m. to 7
And you have to
p.m.
check the paper for the different times. Some of the times are 8 to 5. Some of them are 7 to 7. And they even have voting they're going to have a voting on Sunday, February 25th from 11 to 5. So if you can't make it during the middle of the week, then you got the weekend. They also have voting on Saturday from 7 to 7, I think. The election takes place, the general election takes place on March the 5th, and I might point, 3rd?
No, 5th. You're right.
And I might point out this is also the election that both parties select their nominees for president of the United States and different things like that. And this is what you're doing. You're selecting nominees for those particular positions and that party.
So explain to me, Jimmy, if whoever is nominated in the Republican Party for sheriff, since there's not a nominee for Democrat, does that mean that person's then the sheriff, or we still have to wait to that next election?
Indirectly, they will be, because they have no contestant in November, with the Democrat Party not putting up a candidate. Then whoever wins the Republican Party in Lavaca County, whatever position we're talking about, sheriff or whatever, they will basically then be the one that'll be put up in November, and with no candidate to run against them, they will automatically, all they have to do is get one vote, I guess, and be that way. And
so for some of these, obviously, voting is always important.
And I want to point out one other thing. Tina Hudson, the interim election administrator, wanted to make sure that people understand. She feels that there's people that may want to vote in the Democrat primary, but they also want to vote for the county sheriff, say, for example. And they can't do both. They got to either vote in the Democrat Party primary or they got to vote in the Republican Party primary. And it also is my understanding, if there is a runoff, say, for example, the sheriff's race has 3 people. Let's say nobody gets a majority vote. Well, the top 2 vote getters get to be in a runoff. And so they'll have a runoff, say, later, like maybe April or May. And in that case, only the people that voted in the Republican primary can vote in that runoff. I mean, if you vote in the Democrat Party primary, and there's a runoff for one of the positions in the Republican Party primary, you would not be able to cast a vote for that.
So right now, if you want your voice heard in this primary election, you need to make sure that you are aware of all that information, because therefore, if you want to vote for this office of sheriff, I know that's one for sure. There is no Democrats running, so you're going to want to go in there and talk to them and make sure you know that you are voting on the Republican ballot.
And they will gladly answer you those questions if you call the election administrator's office.
So, and again, we do not, we're not endorsing any political candidate here at the newspaper. We just want to inform you of all those that are running, and they're doing so by taking out ads in our paper, and we encourage you to read all of those advertisements, all of the information. We're hoping to have a question and answer section for these candidates as well, to help you get more informed about where they stand and why you choose to either vote for them or not. So get out there and vote. It's the only way to get your opinion heard. So that's all. If you have any questions, you could call us, but these ballots are only going to run this one time in all of our newspapers. So if you can always come up and pick up another copy from us, but they will not be running in the next edition. So you have it this week. So that's pretty much what was going on in Hallettsville. We got some Hofers. We always have, it was Ash Wednesday, so as long as Valentine's Day, by the way, everyone, belated Happy Valentine's Day. Hope you had a great day. For those of us who are observing no meat, that could have been trying for your Valentine's Day dinner. Now, Jimmy and his wife went out early, so they didn't have to worry about that. But I do want to point out that if you're not eating meat, you can eat alligator. Did you know that, Jimmy?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Seafood.
So alligator is acceptable for Fridays in Lent or Ash Wednesday if you are of that religion that is giving up meat. So
Actually, I don't know why anybody would want to eat alligator, though.
And then there's that. But, hey, it's an option. Ani and I had tuna yesterday, and it was great. I don't want to leave out the obituaries. We did have 2 in Hallettsville. We had Frances Marie Moore, 89 of Shiner, passed away on Saturday, February 3rd, 2024. So condolences to her family. And then we have also Ella Mae Bluda, who passed away at the age of 92 on Sunday, February 11th. I know that this is an abbreviated version of her obituary, and there will be a larger one in next week's. We just didn't have it available at press time. Yeah. Jimmy's going to talk to you a little more.
Bit about sports.
Surprise.
Just that Chuck Roth, our sports editor, does a real fine job with this paper, and puts a lot of colorful photos in there and a lot of basketball shots on the front page. But I wanted to point out 2 athletes, one from Hallettsville High School and one from Sacred Heart, signed letters of intent on National Signing Day last week. Lane Gerke plays for the Brahmas. He signed a letter of intent with Texas A&M. And it's going to be a preferred walk-on, which is a pretty good honor, and we wish him the best. And then on Sacred Heart's side, Nick Angerstein, he's a good athlete over with the Indians, but he's primarily extremely good at kicking field goals and extra points and also punting, and he signed a letter of intent with Stephen F. Austin in Nacogdoches, and so he will be going there next year, perhaps maybe kicking their field goals and extra points for them.
I would think there's a good chance of that, and congrats, yes, to both of those young men on National Signing Day that they got the chance to further their athletic careers. It's not always easy to do. So we're going to move on to Shiner. We want to congratulate one of our most famous advertisers, always on the back page, and Henry always says it's such a pretty ad, but it's Patek's Grocery and Market in Shiner. They were the Shiner Chamber's Business of the Season, and you can see some of the Patek family came down in support of this, and so congrats to them on a long-standing history. I would think they're older or close to Hofers at their 70 years. I need to find out exactly where that is. And they're also announcing their citywide garage sale that's going to be coming up soon.
Did I say his name?
Lane Gerke, yes. Okay. Jimmy was worried he didn't mention Mr. Gerke's name, but he did. And again, congrats to Lane and Nick on their signings. So we're going to keep moving in Shiner. Of course, Jimmy had a great article about Ash Wednesday that appeared, I think, in most of our papers. The same obituary that appeared in Hallettsville for Ms. Moore appeared in Shiner, so we won't review that again. Mark Luby did a great job on sports. I don't know that I can look fast enough to see that either one of these teams, if they advanced or not. I would think the Cardinals did because they finished second, so that's a pretty good chance that they're advancing. I do not know about the boys, however. We have some spelling bee champs. So both of these young boys were the spelling bee champs in Lavaca County, and then they will move on to Victoria, I think, is their next stop. And it's pretty cool that they're from some of the smaller schools in our area. One was from Visherod and one was from Sweet Home. So we want to congratulate, I think it's Nathan and Jacob on their wins as spelling bee champs. Jacob is an 8th grader at Sweet Home ISD, and Matthew is an 8th grader at Visherod ISD. So congrats to both of them, and best of luck at the regional spelling bee, which will be Saturday, March the 2nd in Victoria. And again, we have Patek's ad, like I said, always a nice ad. And then we're going to move on to Yoakum. Now, Yoakum always stumps me because I never know what's going on there. But I know that next week you guys are going to want to listen. There's some big Yoakum news going on that happened at the city council meeting. So definitely tune in next week and we'll talk more about that. We have indictments I want to say it makes me sad, but there's always a lot of wrecks on the Yoakum front page. So sad that is happening, but kudos to Nadine and Allison for being there to cover those accidents. The store has some recalls. That is the HEB recall. That was in most of our papers. Just make sure that if you bought any of those products, you're checking in and getting those back to the stores. Mark Herchek always has a great column, so make sure you check that out. And we do have an obituary here. It is Mary Lee Antoinette
Schreifer.
Thank goodness Jimmy's here. Age 89, passed away February the 11th. So, again, condolences to her family as well. We have some sweethearts that were going on, the spelling bee. Last week was School Counselors Week, so I do want to send a shout out to all of our school counselors in the area. That is a hugely important job, not just in helping in day-to-day interactions of students and their problems, but they also play a huge role in the scholarship and on, I guess, futures of our kids. So they are the ones that help them plan. Hallettsville and Yoakum do have soccer going on right now. And you and Ani were talking a little bit yesterday about soccer. Now they're in a whole nother district, right? Because of lack of teams.
Because soccer is kind of a coming sport in the smaller schools in the state. Not many play it. They're starting more and more to play it, and like Hallettsville and Yoakum and I think Rice all play soccer, but they're teamed in a district with people like El Campo, Bay City, and people like that, and they're a little bit larger schools. So again, the larger the school, the more students and athletes you can choose from. So it makes it real tough for them to compete in those kind of levels. But eventually, I would see UIL sanctioning soccer for a 3A division as well. So that's probably in the near future.
Yeah, we're getting closer. But congrats to I know Yoakum and Hallettsville, who both have them in the Lavaca County area, both have soccer team. Congrats on competing at that level. It's only making you guys better, and we're proud of you for stepping up and doing that. Again, sample ballots were in all of our papers, so make sure you check those out, as well as our classifieds in all of our papers. That's the best way to get it out there. And Hope Livestock. So we have Shiner Livestock that's going to be coming up within the next couple of weeks, and Hope Livestock. Those are our last two Lavaca County livestock shows that are going to be happening, and support those kids. I know Jimmy has typed in a lot of numbers on livestock, so he's looking forward to the end of that season. But it is a great showing for the kids of Lavaca County and their hard work. Last paper, Jimmy, Molten, the Molten Eagle. Now, Murray calls this our cleanup batter, so you can relate to what that is. And,
of course, he has a lot to do with it, putting it together.
He does. This is his baby, I like to call it. And Murray is doing a great job, even when he didn't feel the best this week. He got the paper out and on time, and that's what we like to hear. So, Murray has a big column this week. It's about the history of Molten from 1887 to 1987. And he talks a little bit about that. I have not got to read. Man, I'm getting tired here. I've not gotten to read this article fully yet, but I know that Murray always puts together a great article, and I'm looking forward to reading it. Did you read it by chance?
No, I have not got a chance to as of yet.
So we're both going to sit down with it. We stay pretty busy until about Thursday afternoon. Henry Joe, I did have someone call in this morning about this mystery photo. So anyone else, you could let us know if you want to talk to Henry himself. Like I said, he is out sick right now, so prayers for him and his quick recovery, but I'm sure the little guy's pretty tough, so I'm sure he'll be back on Monday, and Henry's regular work hours are Monday and Tuesdays. So if you want to talk to the famous Henry Joe, you have to call on one of those days. If not, you can always let me and Ani know when we answer the phone who your response is to this mystery photo. But like I said, we had one phone call already this morning, so thanks for that. And Henry's doing a wonderful job, of course, with his new column. Let's see what we got. All these ballots took up a lot of room in this week's paper. And then we want to thank Gonzalez Healthcare as well. You had written this about someone who is appointed the new county treasurer. I don't know anything about
Okay, it was Tammy Kurth, who Karen Bluta, the current county treasurer for a number of years, has decided to retire, and her retirement comes in effect on April the 1st. And at Monday's meeting, the Commissioners Court approved Tammy Kurth, who has been working in the county treasurer's office for the last 6 months, but she has a lot of background in financing and stuff like that. She's worked for different companies before, as well as working for the county tax assessor's office, and she's going to be a well-qualified individual.
So congrats to Tammy. Thank you for serving, and we look forward to working with you in the future. And I think that's pretty much going to wrap this up. But as I'm looking at this window that I stare out of, do you see anything dead on the windowsill there, Jimmy?
No, I don't.
You don't see that little yellow bug with wings?
Nope.
Look down below.
Down below. That's a bee that was chasing you around the other
yesterday
day.
I had a bee that was following me around when we were trying to get papers out. And number one, if you know anything about me, doing the same kind of thing over and over, like tagging papers, counting paper, I like change. I like creativity. So that is like the most tedious moments of my life, is putting papers together. But I do it with a happy heart and some loud music. And we all work together really hard to get your papers out on Wednesday. But yesterday we had a friend, and it was this bee, who they informed me that if it stung me, it would die. Well, that's great, but I don't really want to get stung. So it looks like it either stung someone or died on its own. Or that's a different bee altogether. Who knows?
It may have been looking for a way out, couldn't find a way out, and eventually passed away.
So condolences to the bee family, but I am not sad that it will not be bothering me next week as we put the papers together. Now, I'm going to let Jimmy say his goodbyes after I tell him thank you for filling in. You did an amazing job without any stumbles. I knew you wouldn't. So,
well, thank you. It was. I'm glad to fill in and help y'all out. I know Murray loves doing this program, and I'm sure it's eating him up that he's not here today to be able to do it. But hopefully, I filled in okay for him. I do want to remind folks again that early voting has begun, and it plays a big role. And we all have the right to vote. So please go out and vote. You're voting for the nominees for your particular party. And, of course, the general election won't take place till November. But right now, early voting is all the way till March the 5th. Early voting is leading up to March the 5th, with March the 5th being the final day to vote. So please get out and vote, and let your voice be heard.
Do your part, right? So I'm going to say again, thank you to Jimmy. I know that Murray is probably eaten up about it, and he's probably very worried because leaving me in charge of anything is risky, but here I am rocking it. So I do want to say that I read this quote this week, and I think it's very important to remember. It also kind of goes with what Jimmy says. You can't complain if you don't do anything. You can't complain that your voice wasn't heard if you don't speak up, and the way to do that is part of your right to vote. And life is 10% what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. So Murray, I know this week has been tough, but look at you. You rocked the paper, and I know that you're working hard to getting better. We all have little things. Sometimes they're little, sometimes they're big. Sometimes we fall down, sometimes we stand back up. And so have a great weekend. Enjoy your time with your family and your loved ones. Celebrate a belated Valentine's Day if you didn't get to, or you didn't want to eat fish and you want to eat meat, and do it tomorrow. Best luck to all the basketball teams out there, all the softball teams that are starting their season, all the baseball teams who have their opening days. And stay safe this weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.